Toyota just announced 7 brand new vehicles that are going to be coming out in the bZ line. These are full battery electric vehicles by 2025. Is Toyota really serious this time, or are they still hedging their bets? Let's find out. Let's go right to the source over here to Toyota and let's see exactly what's going on. So they have announced 7 vehicles that are going to be coming to market by 2025. And they've got this pledge towards carbon neutrality that they've been talking about. So what they're doing is they've got a brand new dedicated EV platform. It's called the bZ platform, Beyond Zero. And so we finally got a lot of specific details about the bZ4X. So let's dig into this. So this is what the prototype vehicle looks like, and it's about the same size as the RAV4, and I think that's what the 4 sort of indicates in this moniker. The X obviously is for crossover, and bZ is this new line, this Beyond Zero line that they are going to be using as a part of the brand new platform of the eTGNA platform, which is going to be specific for electric vehicles. Automotive News has a really good summary of this vehicle here, so let's talk about the specifics of this bZ4X. So they're talking about a 300-mile range, steer-by-wire, which is very controversial. We're going to talk about that in a second too, and these hammerhead shark looks. So this is a vehicle that Toyota has actually been working on for quite a while. So 71 kilowatt hour battery, that's very similar to the Tesla Model Y, which is around 75 kilowatts. And just for reference, the Ford Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, the battery is actually just about 100 kilowatt hours. It's 99.8, but usable is around 88 right now. They're going to move it up to 90. So that's one of the bigger batteries in the industry. So 71 is pretty much in range with the Model Y and some other manufacturers. So this is actually coming pretty soon. It's going to go on sale in mid-2022, and they are going to be doing sales in the US. They're going to be talking about doing sales in Europe, Japan, and China. And so this Beyond Zero, this represents a reference to zero emissions. So they're going to go beyond zero, whatever that really is, but zero emissions is what we're talking about here. So this is part of a broader initiative that Toyota is doing. They're saying they're charging into the electrified future with a 10-year, $3.4 billion investment. I'm sure it's going to be bigger than that. Ford recently announced a $30 billion investment that they're doing by 2030 or 2025, I don't remember, for a bunch of new plants and battery plants and plants to build the F-150 Lightning, and also the Mach-E, the next version of the Mach-E, etc. Ford is going fully in on this, and so Toyota is sort of they're sort of dipping their toes into the water. Let's call it what it is. I don't think they're really going all in, because they are going to be offering a broad range of electrified vehicles over the next couple of years. And they're talking about 25% of their sales by volume. So right now, Toyota says their electrified vehicles account for 25% of their US sales volume. They're expecting that to be 70% by 2030. But we need to think about what that number means for a second, because when they talk about electrified sales, electrified vehicles, they are talking about hybrids, because right now Toyota does not have a dedicated BEV vehicle, battery electric vehicle. That is going to be the vehicle launching in 2022, the bZ4X. That's going to be electrified vehicles. So we've got to take a look at these numbers a little more in depth. If you're enjoying this content, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to the channel. It's going to help keep these videos flowing. But what they're really saying is Toyota is going to have a range of electric vehicles, and it's not going to be just pure battery electric vehicles, but they're talking about expanding the line to include hybrid vehicles, which they already have, plug-in hybrids like the Toyota RAV4 Prime. It's a plug-in hybrid. You can get about 40 miles of range on it. Did a test on that. I'll link that video. And then full BEVs from 55 vehicles today to about 70 vehicles, 70 models by 2025. And of the 70 models, 15 will be BEVs, including the 7 bZ Beyond Zero models. They haven't announced a lot of specifics yet beyond what they're going to do beyond these 7 vehicles, or even what the 7 vehicles are going to be, but we do know they're going to have 2 versions of the bZ4X. So first of all, these are developed in conjunction with Subaru. So there's the Subaru, the Solterra, which is going to be coming out shortly. So the bZ4X is the the twin, the sister of the Solterra. And their whole philosophy here, this is a lot of marketing speak, of course, is to drive impressive driving performance, or rather achieve impressive driving performance through a low center of gravity and greater rigidity. Well, that is certainly the model that every manufacturer that is developing an EV is using right now. They all have a low center of gravity, which is an inherent design advantage of EVs. You've got a skateboard type platform, you put the batteries down low, that is going to improve the handling because you don't have your roll center up high, it's much lower. So you want to have all your weight down low. Now the interiors are quite different than what we're seeing in current Toyota products. What we've got here is a very big cabin, and they're using the advantages of having a battery being down low and not having the engine intrude into the cabin so much to make the distance between the front passenger and the back longer. They're targeting 1 meter of tandem equivalent distance. I'm not quite sure what they mean by that, if that means from the front of the front seat to the front of the rear seat. I'm not quite exactly sure what that is, but in any ways, we're going to have more leg room is the bottom line on this. That's sort of the approach here. And then we also got a broad open cabin with a dashboard that's going to have some nice materials on it. They're talking about having an upholstered instrument panel, so I guess on the higher ends maybe it's going to be Alcantara. And so we're going to have a bigger cabin in a mid-size SUV class vehicle. That is sort of the target. And very much like the Mach-E, they are targeting a charge rate up to 80% of about 30 minutes using 150 kilowatt charge rate. That's what the Mach-E has right now too. So the Mach-E will do 10% to 80% in about 45 minutes. So this is theoretically a little bit better. Now this is where things start to get a little bit weird, is with this drive-by-wire system. Now this is probably going to roll out to China first, is my guess. Maybe some other Asian countries, and maybe they'll make it available as an option here. But I'm definitely getting some Tesla Plaid vibes from this very strange, they're calling it an F1 inspired steering wheel. Frankly, I think it's a terrible idea. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't think this looks good, but more importantly, I can't imagine that this is going to be good to drive.
This steering wheel feels a little awkward, and you know the normal motion of letting a steering wheel go when it rotates, like, and you just kind of let your hand glide on it? That's a little weird. It would take some getting used to.
But Toyota says they do have a solution for this. So they're saying that lock to lock is going to be 150 degrees, so you don't need to turn your hands all the way around the wheel. Because if you've seen the Plaid, and I have not driven it yet, but when you're maneuvering in a parking lot, you need to be able to sort of put your hands over the wheel to turn like that. And so they're going to say only 150 degrees, so that's not even 180, that's not even all the way around like that. It's basically like this was going to give you full lock, but that's going to have a very weird kind of feeling when you're driving it. And this whole thing is actually drive-by-wire, so there's no physical connection between the wheels and the steering wheel. They're saying that some of the advantages of this system is it blocks unnecessary vibrations from the tires and only transmits necessary vibrations such as road information. Well, Toyota and other manufacturers have already pretty much got the vibration reduction down in the steering system. I really don't think we need any more. I don't think we need less steering feel. This is ultimately going to result in no actual steering feel. This is going to be all simulated steering feel, but maybe most people don't really care. I certainly do, but hey, maybe I'm too old school for this kind of thing. Certainly, I am more than willing and open to try it and check it out. I'm very fascinated by this. I think it's very interesting. Personally, I just don't think it's something that I would buy, and perhaps they're sort of betting on that too for domestic buyers. But they're going to have a traditional system here too, and they're talking about having this design where it's very easy to see the instrument cluster. And so, of course, you're going to have the conventional wheel in probably most of the cars, and you're going to be able to see the instrument cluster really well through the wheel. Now, Toyota knows that when you're driving a battery electric vehicle in the winter, you do tend to get a range reduction, and so they're targeting after 10 years to have a 90% battery capacity retention. And they're also focusing on making sure that the battery does maintain as much range as possible when it's cold. Toyota has been working on some new battery technology. They've got some solid state batteries that they've been working on too. So there's a lot of stuff sort of going on in the background at Toyota. This is a pretty big effort for them. but they haven't sort of made it front and center yet until this press announcement. It seems like they are definitely sort of making bigger moves into the EV space because, frankly, we've got GM, we've got Ford, and especially VW has been making really, really big moves into the EV space, sort of going fully throated all in, and Toyota is still, you know, they're making this a little bit more of a priority, but as I said earlier, they are sort of hedging their bets on having different types of EV technology, and Toyota has flat out said that they don't believe that we're going to go full EV. They're not going to go full EV by 2030 or even half EV by 2030 like some of the other manufacturers. They're going to phase things in with hybrid technology. That is going to be their approach, and this is part of that. Now, Toyota is obviously very familiar with all the news of the Tesla battery fires. Tesla has come under fire, it's a pun, recently for a lot of battery safety issues, especially there's videos of these cars exploding when they hit things, and I'm not going to render an opinion on that right now. I think we've got a lot of, you know, dumb drivers, and also fuel tends to explode too, but regardless of that, they do see the negative PR from that, and so they are putting together a philosophy for battery safety designed to prevent and detect signs of battery failure, including new technologies that have adopted multiple monitoring systems to ensure safety and security in the state of an emergency. So they're going to reduce contamination in their battery development and their battery technology, which is going to result in a reduction in abnormal heating. They're going to be monitoring the voltage, the current, and the temperature to detect if bad things are happening up front. And they're going to be using high temperature resistant cooling, which is going to prevent fire from short circuits even if there is a leak of the battery coolant. And finally, a newly developed battery pack, which is going to be integrated with the body to ensure protection in the event of a collision. That's actually pretty cool to have the battery as part of the structure of the body of the car. Tesla's moving towards that too, but that actually is very significant to have the battery as an integral part of the structure. That is going to make the vehicle stronger in the event of a crash. So we finally have some specs and some details about this. They're going to have two different versions that are going to be debuting. They've got a front-wheel drive called the bZ4X, and the rear-wheel drive, the four-wheel drive version called also the bZ4X. So front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. The weight is going to be anywhere from about 4,800 pounds to about 5,000 pounds. They're quoting this here in kilograms. And the charge, 500 kilometers of range. That's about 300 miles of range, or 460, a little bit less than that for the all-wheel drive version. And these range estimates are based on the WLTC, which is a little bit different than the EPA ratings that we use typically here. Tesla also uses the WLTC range estimates too, which is a little bit more. Typically, it seems to be a little bit less realistic than the EPA ratings, but I'll leave you guys to debate that right here down in the comments. Go ahead and debate that. So in the front-wheel drive version, we've got a motor which is 150 kilowatts. That's about 201 horsepower, give or take, in the front motor. And then in the all-wheel drive version, we have a rear motor with an additional 80 kilowatts. So they're talking about maximum system output of 150 kilowatts in the front-wheel drive version, about 200 horsepower in the all-wheel drive version, and that is about 215 horsepower, give or take. So the maximum charging rate is going to be 150 kilowatts, same as the Mach-E that I indicated before. We know that some vehicles can do it more quickly, like Tesla and some other vehicles, but you need to find a charger that is going to be able to support that. And these are not going to be particularly fast. They're not going with the fast and furious ethos like Ford and Tesla have. We're talking 0 to 60 with the front-wheel drive version, 0 to 100 kilometers, which is 62 in 8.4 seconds. You can bet that's going to be like around 8.2, something like that for the front-wheel drive version. The all-wheel drive version is going to be 7.7. So not super fast, but they are focusing more on range and having a good battery life when the weather is inclement. So we know that the domestic manufacturers have announced new battery plants in North America. What does that mean for Toyota? Are they going to be building a plant here? And so we're over here at Automotive News, and here's the headline. What does this mean for a new U.S. assembly plant for batteries? And so according to a top executive at Toyota, Toyota North America will look to build a campus setting for its planned battery plant to feed North American production of battery, electric, and hybrid vehicles. So while that's not really specific, what Automotive News thinks, and I think too, is that they might bring a new assembly plant which is going to have the production capacity to produce the vehicles and the batteries together as opposed to just a single standalone plant. Toyota has no excess production capability in North America right now, although the Avalon sedan which is being built in Kentucky, is going to end in 2022, so that might open up that plant for them to perhaps repurpose that. But if you look at what the domestic manufacturers are doing in North America, there's a number of companies that have got plants planned or starting to build them. For example, General Motors, Ford, SK Innovation, Toyota, Stellantis. They're all doing a bunch of different plants across pretty much in the east part of the country right now, which is going to be focused on battery production and vehicle production too. So there is a pretty big ramp up going on right now in North America, and all you commenters who hate EVs, well, it's happening, and actually they're going to be producing a lot of jobs here too. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that. I'm bringing you automotive news and reviews several times per week. Thanks for watching.